Sasha Cobra, welcome to the Uncivilized podcast. This is a pleasure. As we were jamming a little bit before I hit record, I don't know too much about you, but I find when I see someone's work and there's a light of intrigue that comes on, I really want to dive in with them. So I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for coming on. For people who don't know you, I don't know the best way yet to ask this question without it sounding like a business interview, and I don't like the tell me what's inspiring you these days, sort of skirt around question. So I'll just ask,
Mhm.
what was the last thing that you taught? Because I know you're a teacher.
I teach all the time. I have an online membership now, and that membership revolves around love, truth, and arrows.
Mm.
So, the answer to your question about what it is that I'm teaching is all the time falling into one of those three categories or a mix of all three: love, truth, and arrows.
I'm going to ask you, if you would, in your words, to define each one of those. What does
Okay.
love mean to you? What does truth mean to you? And Eros, I think, is the one that people are less familiar with, but I'd love to get your take on the first two, or the first, all three, actually.
Well, it's interesting that you say that Eros is the one that people have the least connection to, because I would actually say it's the one that we least use in our vocabulary.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say that love and truth is something that we as a humanity are actually aware of and understanding of in their true sense.
Hmm.
So we'll start with love. Love is a word that we in society use all the time. We say, I love tacos, and I love my dog, and I love you. And in the same breath, after saying, I love you, we yell and scream and betray and cheat on the people that we
Hmm.
love. And so, what I'm wanting to share with people is something that I'm actually learning myself, because to this day, I've never met a human being that truly understands what love is
Hmm.
and truly embodies love. And love, in its essence, is the fabric of existence. It is what everything is made out of, and it is a state of being. It's not just an action, it's not just something that gives us happy feelings, and when those feelings go away, we all of a sudden turn to hate or
Hmm.
to disgust or neglect, but it is a state of being. And so, in the way that I'm sharing it, is how do you be love embodied in the world?
Hmm.
That's what I really want to share with people. And if you think about, and I've never grew up in a religious environment, so I really don't have much understanding of Christianity and of Jesus Christ, but just culturally, the way that people speak about and personify this human or archetype, who knows, I wasn't around when he was around, at least not that I recall, but let's say Jesus Christ, people speak about him as being love embodied, and we have this separation where we say, like, well, Jesus was love,
Hmm.
and yet we're not. And so we are here to worship this character. And I'm saying, why are you worshiping somebody when you can embody those same characteristics? And
Hmm.
so, what does that mean? That is compassion, deep compassion, understanding. That's patience. It's how to really embody and be in a state of love. And I say that because one thing is being love embodied in a partnership, another thing is being love embodied just as you exist. Can you be embodying this juice of life, what existence is made out of, through every cell of your body at all times, whether you like or dislike, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're joyful, whether you're angry? Can you feel and be love embodied in all those facets? And if you take it to a very practical level, it's interesting. You did ask me what I've taught recently. It's not the last thing I taught, but recently what I taught is that love, in the most practical way, when it comes to teaching humanity how to love, is about a regulated nervous system.
Hmm.
That's all it is. So if we think about all these qualities that we perceive as love, we'll say, like, I feel loved when I'm understood. I feel peace. I feel calm. Someone is patient with me. They're accepting of me. All of those qualities are rooted in a balanced, regulated nervous system. So, on a practical level, I feel that as a humanity, if we were to say, how do I become love embodied? It is to say, how do I operate from a regulated nervous system, no matter what is happening around me? And I think that's what we need to come to. And to understand the importance and the healer of that, because as I said, like, we are a society and a culture of people that use that word so loosely, but we really don't understand what it means to actually love one another. And of course, starting with loving our own selves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to bring that kindness, that compassion, that patience to others, and I'm saying others, not only humans, animals, your bedding on your bed as you make your bed, how you wash the dishes. I'm saying everything. How do you move through the world from that place? And the way that you do that is through a regulated nervous system, which most people do not have and are triggered all the time. And trauma is at the base of that. So we live in a trauma-induced society that is the perfect recipe for divide and conquer. It is the perfect recipe for control. It's the perfect recipe for division. And so it is intentionally created in our society for us to be traumatized, whether we're traumatized in the cultural way that we know through sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, things like that, but also traumatized just from living in a sick society, in a society that is anti-life, in a culture that does not promote freedom of spirit, freedom of expression, freedom to be, freedom to laugh, freedom to exist. That in itself is traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that creates a recipe for disconnect. And so love for me, in the way that, let's say, I'm teaching it or sharing about it, is how do you be love embodied in a crazy world? So that's one. Number two, truth.
Can I circle back there for a second?
Of course.
This
Yeah.
is it's interesting when you first mentioned it. I'm not a Christian either, and I didn't grow up in a Christian environment, but thought of Christ consciousness as it feels like that's the more common understanding of what you're saying. But I would love to come back to you as a human and ask, how do you navigate? I get it. I teach a lot of things too, and then have to sit down and be like, shit, how do I do this? How do I live this and express this? So I'm curious for you, just as a human, not as a teacher, what are some of your navigation points, practices, ways of orienting towards what feels like a very profoundly different way of living? Does that question land?
Well, let's see how I answer it. Well,
Okay.
the first thing to say is how I am a teacher is how I am a human, and how I am a human is as much I am a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
because the two actually are one and the same. So my human version is still teaching, and my teaching version is still very human. There's really no distinction between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I share very much, and a big foundation of my practice and my sharings, have a little bit of resistance to call it teachings, but sharings,
Sure.
is a certain type of energy work that I facilitate. And that energy work is a way for us to clear the body of trauma, of unprocessed feelings, of memories, of negating beliefs, because that garbage that we hold in the body is why we're unable to stay as love embodied. So the healing process is to keep cleansing and purging that which is not who you are, because we are love embodied. If you think about, if you watch 2-year-olds, well, let's say 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, they got a lot of ego. I want this and I want this now. But how they forgive, it's there. When you look at children, is where we really can see that they're love embodied. And we kind of forget that we are children. We were children. So this is who we are. And then life gives us experiences, and we take on all this garbage, and we buy into a whole bunch of lies that we continue to carry and perpetuate in our actions and our words. And that's what keeps us from being able to be love embodied. So the process is a clearing out process. Mm-hmm. And of course, I have done that continuously on myself for the last 20 years. So let's say my threshold or my capacity for triggers is much more, how would I put it? Most people get triggered by the tiniest of insignificant infantile things. And once you get rid of the memories from your infantile time of when you were hurt because of what someone said and how they treated you, you start to grow up and mature. So then things that normally would trigger the average person no longer would trigger you. But everyone's got a ceiling. And of course, I do too. Mine is just might be a lot higher than the average person. And that's why I'm saying that I'm yet to meet a person that I feel in existence at this day and age that really embodies love in their full capacity. Can we all do that at times? Of course. The question is, how much of your life, how much of your day-to-day is you being love embodied versus not? And for some people, they're lucky if they have a day when they even get a glimpse of that. For other people, it's, let's say, most of the day until XYZ happens. So it's, we're all in the same path of learning. We're just at different places, but doing the same thing, which is learning how to be who we truly are, which is love embodied.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, this is Traver. I hope you're loving this episode of the Uncivilized podcast. I certainly did. One of the things I want to let you guys know is that I run this extraordinary group called the Uncivilized Nation. And over the past 5 years, I have seen thousands of men come and transform their lives. So if you are a man interested in going from numb to fully alive, from lost to on purpose, from domesticated to dangerous in the best possible way, please check us out at www.manuncivilized.com/the nation. Again, manuncivilized.com/the nation. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So then we move on to truth. Do you want me to go to that one?
Please. Yes, please.
Okay. So then we move on to truth. And it's interesting because for me, love and truth are one and the same. It's a masculine, feminine dance. So it's just like how we as humans, as man and woman, we're both human. So we're very much alike, but there is a slight difference between a man and a woman and how they operate. And for me, love and truth is the same thing in that exact similar way. They're one and the same, two sides of the same coin with just a slightly different flavor. So love is a lot more feminine. Truth is a lot more masculine. And when it comes to truth, it's just asking yourself, first and foremost, do you even know you? Do you know what you like? Do you know what you dislike? And I'm starting with the basics because I work with thousands of people. And from all those people, one of the most common questions that I ask them is, what do you want? What do you like? What do you dislike? What brings you joy? And the basics of those questions, most people don't have an answer to. Because truth is actually something, personal truth is something that comes to us through our bodies. Our bodies are the messaging board between ourselves and our spirit, our higher self. And so because we're so disembodied, because we're so disconnected from the body, because of trauma, because of not wanting to feel all this garbage that we've been holding on to, the repressed emotions, all of that, we don't spend time in our bodies to hear that truth. So the basics, starting with the basics for people, is understand your personal truth. What is right for you? Because if you look at us as a culture, as a society, most people are operating through following orders. And we've done that ever since we were born. First our parents, then our school teachers, then our bosses, then the government, then the media. Most people do not think independently. And by doing that, we really not only do a disservice to our own personal destiny and our joy, but in my opinion, we're doing a destiny to all of existence. Because existence created all of us in our uniqueness to fulfill its blossoming. So when we do not stay in connection to the uniqueness of our spirit and what our spirit came here to do and our destiny, we're also doing a disservice to the blossoming of the experience we call life. So first is understanding personal truth, and the second part is being able to discern universal truth from lies. And I speak about that now more than ever because the lies that are now given to us are so grandiose. They are so gigantic, and somehow people believe those that to me it's pretty insane. And the time of COVID was one of the best examples of that, to see how, again, fear and trauma induces fear, and how that fear creates people following without discernment, without feeling what is truth, what is a lie, what is right for me, what is wrong for me. And that is so, so, so important, especially now because things are moving so fast technologically with our consumption of information. It's so much easier now to manipulate people's minds than it used to be before. Because before, imagine you lived in a village. You had a few hundred people in your village. So you are limited to whatever information that village can share with you. But now you are open to a flood, a tsunami of information every time you open up your phone, every time you open up social media. And so that consumption is going into your psyche, whether you like it or not. And it really requires a lot of discernment, and starting with the practice of understanding your own truth. So there's love, there's truth, and then there's Eros.
Can we hold there for 1 second?
Sure.
2 pieces. I'll say them out loud so I don't forget them. I would love to hear you speak a little bit more on the differentiation with masculine and feminine between love and truth. Just tease that out for a couple more sentences, if you would. And then the second question is something I've had to grapple with myself as someone who has a whole idea, an organization, and brand based around the word uncivilized. Yet the vast majority of my business and practice and message comes from using social media. And so I've had my own, like, am I poisoning the same well I'm asking people to not drink from, but serving them there? So I'm curious how you navigate that. But I'd love to hear first masculine, feminine with love and truth. I know those two words of masculine and feminine often invoke a lot of pre-thought or ideology of this can be or it can't be. This is masculine, this is feminine. Men don't, women don't. And so just in your own wording, how do you put love and truth to more masculine and feminine, or feminine masculine?
Sure. First, it's important to also note, especially from what you just mentioned about how we have all this, women should do this, men should do this, and all that. We're talking about energies, and all of us have both energies. So it's more of speaking about the flavors of that. So even for me now, speaking, guiding, bringing direction, containment, all of that is coming from a masculine energy. Now, it's very important for me to maintain my feminine energy, because if I do not, then the masculine part of me gets unhealthy. So that's where we get into domination. That's where we get into aggression. That's where we get into control. So I love both energies. It's not to say we have one or the other. It's to say I celebrate the one that matches the body that I was born into, because my celebrating that one and bringing that one to the forefront is what allows for me to use the counterpart of that in a healthy way. So that's number one. So it's to also say that love and truth are one and the same. It's also how, when you speak truthfully to a friend, you do it out of love. You may give some truths that are sharp, but it comes out of a place of love. And it's not a soft love, right? It's a sharp love, because truth can hurt sometimes. So they're one and the same in that way. But when we look at those energies of feminine and masculine, masculine is provider, protector, initiator, leader. And feminine is more receptive, soft, compassion, patience. So when we look at love, even though, like I said, they're both there at the same time, love is soft. Love is, let me have compassion for you, let me nurture you. It's usually the way that women love. If you really just think about in partnerships, how that energy externalized, how it externalizes, it's through this, let me hug you, let me love you, let me kiss you, let me hold you. And truth is a way of love to say, I protect. I oftentimes protect with my words. I oftentimes protect with boundaries. And so there is this more sharpness, more initiatory type of energy that comes through. And it's something that's really important for both men and women to have balanced. And the reason why is because so many women get trapped in this, in relationships. I love him, I love him, I love him. And yet they don't speak out their truth. They hold on to things in their throat. They end up getting thyroid issues. And they actually really need a lot more of that balance of understanding how to love and be truthful about a situation, have the courage to speak on it, and do it as an act of love. That's where that honesty comes from. Right. And men, on the flip side, if they are really truth, 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 they can lack the sensitivity and that tenderness and that patience and that understanding that is the other side of the coin that comes from love. So again, it's two sides of the same coin. We both have to have it balanced. And then Eros, for me, is kind of the capsule that holds the coin together. And so Eros is, I mentioned that love is the fabric of existence. Eros is the spark of existence. It is what brings life and juice into existence. And we oftentimes think of Eros as eroticism coming from that word, which it absolutely is. But let me ask you this. How erotic is it when the waves kiss the shore every time the wave hits the sand? So we're not just talking about eroticism from a place of human pornography, so to speak. We're speaking about the erotic nature of life, what it feels like when the sun kisses your face, what it feels like to watch the leaves dancing in the tree. To me, sex is everywhere. That's all I see. When I move through the world, for me, sex is everywhere, but not in this pornified way, which we're used to. It's through the sensual act of creation, and everything is birthed through Eros. So that's, let's say, the poetic answer. On a practical level, most people are totally disconnected from that sensuality, that creative spark, and that juice of life. And a lot of people hold shame around sexuality, and they don't understand not only the beauty and the pleasure of our sensual nature and our sexual nature, but also how sexuality and our sexual energy can be used for manifestation, absolutely used for healing, that is huge, and for spiritual development. So Eros is an aspect that literally brings a human to life. And it is the flavor and the energy that keeps them enlivened in life. And something that many people don't have. And they don't, I mean, if you think about, like, just go to a city, sit down on a bench and watch people walk by. And you tell me if we are living in a society of enlivened, radiant, juiced up humans or
Yeah.
if people are walking around dead and inside.
Yeah.
And so much of that has to do with eroticism, eros, that spark. And so a big, huge part of my work is all about sexuality, because your connection to that is what actually drives your connection to truth and to love. So people that are sexually liberated, and I'm not talking about sexually liberated because they go to orgies and they walk around naked on a beach, like that doesn't have anything to do with it. That could still mean that they are of the qualities that I'm speaking about, but that's not why.
Mm.
The why is that when you are sexually liberated inside of shame, of whatever keeps you from really allowing yourself to enjoy intensity of being, allow for energy to move through your body. When you operate from that place, remember what we talked about in regards to trauma and how we hold on to all the stuff, and that's what keeps us from being love embodied. Well, that act of generating sexual energy in whatever way, the allowance of having that energy move through your body is what purges up all the trauma, negating beliefs, memories, the garbage of life. So our sexual and sensual nature cultivates us and gives us a path toward being love embodied. And then if we are more in our bodies, that's when we cultivate truth. We have more connection to listening to the body, to the internal compass that navigates us in life. And this is so important and deep, when you cultivate energy, sexual energy, that's what you're made out of. It's life force. The more that you generate that energy in your body, the more you're able to carry that energy in the body, the more it moves through your higher centers. And we all know of third eye, right? It allows us for us to see. So oftentimes people speak about it, but they don't actually have a real understanding of that or an experience with that. But what happens through our sexual energy generation is that that energy goes to those centers, activates those centers, and now it's a lot easier to see truth. So sexually liberated people are more difficult to manipulate. They're going to be more discerning and more, they just have a bit more of a capacity to see. And again, it's not just sexually liberated, it's anything that generates energy in the body. My path, the path that I share with people about, has always been around sexuality, because I think it is the most beautiful gift that has been bestowed upon humans. It is such an incredible tool, a medicine, and not just a medicine for healing physical ailments, for bringing us back to a place of love. Two people making love. And this is why a lot of people have a really difficult time understanding where I'm coming from, because when they hear me, they immediately think of sex as they know it. So they think like, oh my gosh, how could the sex that I have had in my life possibly bring me to beauty and love? It just brought me pain and misery. And I felt, I'm not talking about the sex that most people are having on the planet due to the programming and the conditioning and the porn and all these other inverted, perverted versions of sexuality. I'm talking about sex as the physical act of love. When two people bring their bodies together for that physical act of love, they literally melt back into their essence. And that's really how it should be. It should feel like a melting, not a pounding, not a friction, not gymnastics, not a sport, not force, but a melting back into their essence in togetherness. So it's really a tool for beauty in our connection, beauty in who we are as humans, beauty in coming back to a place of love. And if you think about it, it's always talked about division, divide and conquer, right? How do you get a whole culture to be a slave culture? Divide and conquer. What are the different ways we do divide and conquer? We do it through race, we do it through religion, we do it through age, we do it through classes, we do it through different things, and we do it through gender. We do it through the wars between men and women that also happen in their household, between husband, wife, even, right? Like even in long-term relationships. And so if you have this tool that literally dissolves all wars between man and woman, which is our sexual connection, of course you're going to make sure that that particular medicine and tool is completely perverted and inverted to make sure that people don't use it rightly. Because if they did, there would be no wars at home. If there are no wars at home, there would be no wars externally out of the home.
There's a lot there. Thank you for that. I agree with you on all points, and have spoken about a sexual liberation that feels so over necessary or so long overdue.
Yeah.
And yet it also feels like we're speeding away from it with the advent of tech, with the proliferation of division on social media, with the pornographization, whatever the word is, of the culture. How do I want to take this? I do actually want to ask you at some point, like, a little bit of your path to arrive here. But before we get there, I would love to, given all that you've just said, which you've said a lot, and I want to put myself in the listener's position and say, amazing. This is beauty personified. It's higher level concepts. It feels to me personally the truth of what spiritual practices and teachings have at their essence, even though they may have different languaging and wording and dogmas around it. But for someone who just heard all of that and is a tiny bit overwhelmed by what do I do now? Where do people begin this exploration, Sasha? I have 20, 30 years of playing in the same waters and then a decade of deep diving in the same waters to understand everything that you just said and feel it. But for someone who's hearing this for the first time, where does the path begin for them?
I guess if somebody was asking me that, I would first inquire whether they are in partnership or on their own. And specifically, we're speaking about their sexuality. Am I right? That's what your question is?
I think that's a good entry point. It's the most, yeah, let's just choose that as the entry point. Definitely.
Honestly, I think the entry point to a life of freedom and love, truth, and Eros is coming back to the body. That's the entry point. How you get there is on you. So I will answer. I don't like when teachers say like my way is the way and it's the only way, because of course it's not true. There's different paths, and I happen to think that mine is the easiest one, and that's why I've chosen that one. But there are people that get there through different avenues. And the path is back to your body. Why? You cannot have a life of freedom while you are hating yourself, while you are thinking you are unworthy, when you think you're unlovable, and that overshadows your life. So the first thing that has to be addressed is that. And you don't get to address that if you're doom scrolling on social media all the time, if you have your vices that you're running to all the time and running from yourself and running from your body. So anything that brings you back to feeling is going to be the entry point, number one. Number two, when you get to your body, you need to have the courage to cry, to yell, to scream, and to purge all the repressed stuff that most people are carrying. And that's why they're living time bombs at any point available to be triggered. And that is basically the state of the world at present. So they have to have something that brings them into the body and gives them the space and the courage to release emotions that they have been running and hiding from. Now, in my opinion, of course, it's going to be through sensuality. That to me is the easiest place. So, practices that I give to people that are so simple and so basic, but a lot more fun than meditating in the corner of your room in lotus position, is I offer to men what I call penis pleasure practice. So it wouldn't be masturbation because you're not fantasizing. All fantasy out. You're not looking at something on the screen. You're also not looking at something on this screen. Just being in your body feeling. And through that practice, if you were to give yourself a slow sensual massage to your penis, it would generate feeling. You would be anchored in your body. The sensation is inviting enough to keep you there. Because for a lot of people in meditation, they're not in their bodies. They're thinking about what they have to do later that day. They're in their mind. So doing something with the body like that, especially when it's rooted in pleasure, anchors you into the body. And if you breathe openly while you're doing it, relaxing your breath and allowing for that energy to move through your body, that energy alone will already start to bring up all those emotions and feelings to the surface. And that's where that man would have to have the courage to stay with that long enough and allow himself to purge those emotions. So it's interesting because it's called a penis pleasure practice. And a lot of people think that, oh, it's like masturbation. No, it's you generating energy and using sexual energy, which is so potent and so powerful and so easy to connect with and generate, as the practice for generating the energy. So if done in that manner, that man can start to cry. Grief can come, shame can come, unworthiness can come. All those feelings can surface, and he can release all of that through yelling into a pillow, through crying, through allowing all of it out, making so much more space inside of him to again be more truthful, more love embodied. Right? So that would be the path. And it's his positive pole. It's a part of his body where he generates energy from, which is also really important to note because in our society, you've probably have heard, whether it came to you directly or from other men, the don't touch yourself, it's dirty when you're growing up, right? Or the saying that we have in society that men only think with their dick, as if it's something bad. And I'm saying that your penis is a source of intelligence and love and truth for a man. When we say men just think with their dicks, they're actually not thinking with their dicks. They're thinking with their mind through a lens of repressed sexuality. But if they were actually in their body, feeling and listening to the wisdom of their body through their genitals, rape would never happen. Their penis would never allow for rape to happen. They force it. The intelligence of the body would love and heal. It wouldn't cause pain and abuse. So I wish for more men to think with their genitals and be led by their genitals versus their mind twisted through a lens of repressed sexuality and chaos that most humans carry, especially men, because men have never really had the invitation in our society to release emotions and feelings. So of course they have more chaos inside that then through the power of sex gets distorted, and then they use their mind in ways that become something other than love. So that's the practice for men. For women, they would go to their positive pole. And it's interesting because most places that promote sexual liberation, female sexuality, and pleasure, they mostly teach about the genitals. But that's the negative pole for the woman. You keep stimulating the negative pole, it's going to attract negativity. So for a woman, it's actually completely a different approach. She has to go to her heart area, her breasts. So for a woman, one of the main practices that I share with my community that they can do on their own is called the breast pleasure practice for women. And that is something where they also connect to their breasts, allowing their breath to move through, allowing sound to move through, activating that positive pole. And interestingly enough, it creates so much energy. It's such an activating part of the body, and something that men really need to understand their sexual connections. Because, little side note, men, when they approach a woman, they approach her body as if she has a male body. So when they approach a male body, they think, I'm going to rock her world. I'm going to give her so much pleasure. And where would I want to feel pleasure as a man? In my genitals. So I'm going to go straight for her vagina. And for a woman, it's really disorienting. The same way that if I came to your body, a male body, and instead of going to your genitals, I said, I'm going to approach you as I would approach my body. So I'm just going to rub your breasts. I'm going to just rub your chest and think I'm going to rock your world. It wouldn't make sense to you. And in the same way, it doesn't make sense to approach a female body that way. And interestingly enough, it's not just men that approach their bodies that way. Women have been conditioned to approach their own body in this backwards way. So when they connect to the power and the activation of their breasts, they're oftentimes in awe and surprise at how much arousal, activation, movement, depth, love, and desire is activated just through that part of the body. So it's almost like a woman will oftentimes come to me and say, I have low libido. And I'm like, well, what are you doing in your life? And she'll say, I'm masturbating all the time. I'm using a dildo. I'm doing all this, but I don't really feel horny, truly. And then when they start to leave that part of their body alone, their vaginas alone, and start doing the practices on their heart area, they get super aroused. They get super activated. Now they're walking through the world all the time, ready and juicy for actual connection with men and the desire for that. So for women, that's a fantastic practice, and I would give that as the entry point to coming into the body, generating energy, releasing what's been repressed from that part of the body, and start to be more love embodied and more truthful, because when you cleanse yourself of the garbage, you it sounds silly, but like you literally are on a path of enlightenment.
Beautiful. I want to speak to the same people listening to this. I imagine a lot of folks hearing it are still wary about the capacity or the skill to navigate the emotion that comes up. And it's not just men. We often place that men are emotionally unskillful, and some are. I'm thinking back to a time in my own life where if I had done this practice, I probably wouldn't have known how to handle grief, anger, upset, frustration, and would have done this practice once and then gone, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what this is now. The emotional part is taking over. So can you speak to people? You're very skilled. I'm very skilled. I deal with people and their emotions, or help people navigate their emotions. But for the lay person who, especially someone we'll see on of either gender, who may think that the emotion is too much, like I will not recover from this, or what we're doing here is opening Pandora's box, or a box that I can't then close, or am I going to fuck myself up from doing this? Would you just say a couple words to that, whoever heard
Sure.
this and is now has that fear?
I mean, in a way, you are opening Pandora's box.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
But what you don't want is to be living in a cesspool of Pandora's box. You actually want it opened and released. And the only thing that I could really say is that if you want to keep doing what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. That's what I tell people. I say, keep hitting your head up against the wall until it hurts too much and you decide that you want to walk through the doorway. And at the end of the day, it's that. So people could say like, oh, I feel like it's too much. It'll be too painful. You get to decide what kind of pain you want to experience. A moment of discomfort, of intensity of emotion, or decades of a life of pain and misery that is just overshadowing your life. And you get to choose, right? In the Matrix, they said, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? Do you want a moment of discomfort, or do you want to live your whole life deadened and overshadowed by misery? Which one do you choose?
Yeah.
And it's up to each person. And I truly believe that we all get ripe at some point. So at some point, the pain of not being fully alive is more painful than the moment of pain that we experience in the doorway to the other side.
Agreed.
That's number one. And number two, which I didn't touch on when I said to you, I'd have to ask the person if they're in a partnership or not. If they are in a partnership, lovemaking is the perfect place for the process I just mentioned. And what I mean by that is that if we understood how to connect sexually, which for most people, they have to pretend like they know nothing about sex, even though they may have been having sex for decades. Throw out all of your ideas about how pretty you have to be, how strong you need to be, all the performance stuff out the window, and you allow for the bodies to come together and you breathe openly. When you start to breathe, you generate energy, just like in the other practices. And again, you're using the sex centers, which are so easy to activate. So through that process, the same feelings that have been repressed are going to come up in lovemaking. And how beautiful is it to then know you're not alone in that room, but somebody's holding you through the process. And this is why I'm saying that lovemaking is such a fantastic medicine, because you're right. You know, we can talk ourselves out of doing all kinds of practices, because when we start to feel uncomfortable, we're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't like how I feel. And it's always on the threshold, meaning we don't get to the point of really crying before we say, I don't want to do this. We get to right before we want to cry and we're like, I don't like this practice. And we actually don't even enter that place of release. And then we walk away. But in lovemaking, if somebody's present with you, they will be there with you. And if you were to break down in someone's arms, what an exquisite experience. Because you are being held, seen, felt, heard, loved, all these qualities that we actually all really wanted to have when we first were traumatized. Most of our traumas come from childhood, when we were not seen, not heard, not felt. And so our healing process is really to be seen, felt, heard, experienced. And in lovemaking, for us to tap into that, to allow ourselves to have all those feelings come up. Let's say if we've, through our childhood experience with our parents, carry the belief of we're unlovable or we're unworthy, we're not good enough. And in a beautiful lovemaking, and this is important because when the lovemaking is not beautiful, these emotions don't come up. We cruise through bad sex because we dissociate, we just bang, bang, boom, boom, nothing happened. But when things touch us deeply through beautiful lovemaking, through energetic lovemaking, that's when all those feelings of unworthiness are going to surface. And how beautiful is it to be in a moment when you're feeling unworthy and there's somebody there that is giving you every affirmation of your worthiness, of your beauty, being present with you, being patient with you, seeing you, hearing you, loving you, feeling you. Like that is medicine. That is exceptional medicine. You know, Traver, I'm going to be honest, I really struggle in my work sometimes because I feel like I'm stuck in between worlds. In between worlds, meaning if I try to have conversations with doctors and scientists about the power of this work, a lot of them have so many sexual issues themselves, they can't handle the conversation. They've never had sex or experienced it as something beautiful. They carry a lot of shame. They got conditioning around it. So it's difficult to go there. And for the other side, where people are really talking about sex education, all of that, it is still so disconnected from nature. It's so about dildos and sex positions and
Yeah.
really still a very distorted version of sexuality. And yes, they're at least having conversations about it, but it still misses the point of the beauty and the medicine of what it is meant for in its purity.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm stuck in between worlds because it's hard for me to relate or to have that community of sex educators understanding where I'm coming from, where they try to convince me and basically burn me at the stake when I say that all BDSM is rooted in trauma. And then the doctors and scientists that I would love to work with, because I actually want them to study the power of sexual energy and our sexual connections for healing, for spiritual development, for the beauty of what it is, for them it's very taboo. So in a way, I feel like it's kind of a lonely place to carry the clarity of the importance of the work and look around and see that sometimes you're the only one there.
Do you feel like you're existing in a paradigm that other people just don't have access to?
What do you mean by access to?
This is a very different idea. For a number of years, I fought professionally in MMA. And most people are like, oh, you're just fucked in the head. That's why you're traumatized. And there's no skill here. It's just barbarism. It's just absolute violence, and there's nothing else to it. And very few people would cross over and come and experience the sport and say, wow, there's an extraordinary skill. It's an energetic dance. You're in deep communion with the person you're with. Yes, there's assholes in every community, and there's psychopaths in every community. And I just got to a point of saying, like, until you can live in this paradigm, I have no interest in talking to you. I'm done kind of trying to explain people my world and how I live. And I've recently done a bit of that with my own beliefs around sexuality, and get a lot of the same pushback and say, like, okay, until I live in I navigate the world in a different way than I think you do. And I'm not asking you to, if you can't step foot in the paradigm, I won't ask you to live in it. So I guess that's maybe perhaps what I'm asking you is, do you just feel like you live in a
Of
different,
course. Of
yeah.
course. And I think and it's not just about, let's say, my world or sexuality. I think it's true for anybody. Like a musician probably sometimes feels lonely in a way unless they really have a
For
certain
sure.
level or quality of other musicians around. And they might be around other people that play guitar or piano, but unless they are at the same level of depth of exploration, those
Yeah.
other musicians won't really understand where they're coming from. So it definitely comes through depth and through experience and through something that haunts you. And I say that because those musicians at that level that I'm referring to, they're haunted by music. It's something that they probably don't know how to even switch off from, because it's the lens with which they move through the world. You know, they walk into a restaurant and the clanking of the forks on the plates and the people
Yeah.
speaking, they hear music in that. I don't. In the same way that I see sex everywhere. For me, everything in life is sex. It haunts me. So I'm all the time looking at the depth of that. And not just that, I think that the thing that has always haunted me my whole life is, what does it mean to be human?
Yeah.
And how do we make this world a more beautiful place? Like, why are we seeing violence? Why are people so unloving with one another?
Mm-hmm.
And sexuality for me has been almost like a reveal, the reveal of, this is the answer, this
Mm-hmm.
is the medicine, and then
Mm-hmm.
the deep exploration of that. And I don't want to say that there aren't people that understand the same depth as me,
Sure. But there's probably few.
but not many.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I get that. I've been
Yeah.
haunted by the same thing. I remember asking my jujitsu instructor, he's a 20-year phenom,
Mm-hmm.
third degree black belt in jujitsu, giant human. I was like, who do you train with?
Mm-hmm.
Who gets to push you to a new level? This is all you do and all you think about all day long. So I
Yeah.
understand that. I'm curious how that haunting affects you personally when you're not teaching and when you're not in front of a screen and when you're just Sasha Cobraing around life.
Well, that what's really interesting, and this is what I said at the beginning, is that I'm the same person.
But how does
So,
it, when you're sitting there eating cereal in the morning, how does that haunting play with you? Because I get what you're saying. And yet there is a difference between outward speaking and just your own being.
I mean, I got to tell you, I feel and I speak. And so even when I
Mm.
so-called teach,
Mm-hmm.
all I'm doing is feeling and speaking what's on my heart. It is so therapeutic for me. You have no idea. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing my work for 20 years. I know you said you don't know much about me, but I actually worked, when I first started doing this work, I worked exclusively with men for 8 years.
Okay.
And then I opened up the work for both men and women.
Mm.
And over these 20 years, I've done thousands and thousands of private sessions. And since then, I've just pouring everything into my online membership. And I still offer privates for high profile clients that I have, but not to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And so we meet and I so-called teach. It's therapy for my soul. I'm not teaching. I'm
Sure.
accumulating so much feeling through my observation from that week that I have to talk to somebody about it.
Mm.
And that's really what the teaching is. It's not me teaching, it's literally what I experienced in that week,
Mm-hmm.
and then me getting on the call and sharing through this haunting that I experience in my life, that life
Yeah.
is all the time revealing information to me, showing me things, and then there's an outlet for me to pour it out. I'm the same person. And if I didn't have that membership, my friends would be getting lectures and 1 hour preach sessions from me because it's really one and the same. It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing. There really is no difference.
I hear you. I hear you. I think what I'm digging at is, what does it do to you? How do you, if there were no outlet, I guess I want to
Mm-hmm.
get to some of the turmoil or some of the not the tension, but the energetic.
Oh, sweetheart, turmoil is everywhere all the time.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
all the time going through stuff. And
Okay.
that is part of the teaching. So when I say also what has happened to me throughout the week, maybe I
Yeah.
get triggered by something. And through that
Mm-hmm.
triggering, I observe what triggered me.
Mm-hmm.
And I learn through how I handle that or my messiness in handling that. And
Mm-hmm.
that creates a whole discourse in itself. So the what I'm sharing is my really teachings of my own human experience. I'm far from perfect, but that life experience
Mm-hmm.
becomes the teacher, and that's what I share.
For sure. For sure.
So throughout the week, it's definitely far from perfection. It's a human having a human
Mm-hmm.
life, and but with incredible observation. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I've always been good at,
Yeah.
is digging deep to understand and analyze things at their depth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what makes people tick. I want to understand why fear comes up, where limitation is there,
Mm-hmm.
where we expand, where we feel joy, where what our needs and desires truly are. And my number one place of learning that is through my own experience. And then witnessing it, of course, in others, but
Sure.
especially in people that are close to me.
Mm.
So I don't think that teachers, I think if a teacher is projecting perfection, honestly, I don't know, unless you've reached enlightenment, which I am yet to meet somebody that I truly feel is in that state.
Yeah.
We are in a human experience, and that human experience takes us for a ride.
Mm.
And when you are exceptional at observing that human experience is where you
Mm-hmm.
become an exceptional teacher.
Amen. Yeah.
And that's
Thank
all
you.
it is.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree with you on all fronts. That's, I think, some of what I was trying to get to. Do you mind if we do two more questions? Do you have time?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can ask me
Okay.
whatever you want.
Beautiful. I do want to hit 2 points that I've been curious about. Was there a turning point in your personal journey that you can speak of or speak to, or was this kind of just how you've always oriented before you had language for it, or a platform for it, or was there like a pre version of who you are now, and then some, not, I don't want to use the word inciting incident, but just turning point, I'll say, that dropped you into this way of being deeper? That personally intrigues me. And then second, I do want to circle back to the social media piece if we can as
I wanted
well.
to circle
Yeah.
back. I had it in mind. I definitely didn't want
Yeah.
to let you go without that
Yeah.
answer. So things that I'm going to call them pivotal points.
Yeah.
Would that seem accurate? Yes. I have absolutely tons of pivotal
Mm.
points. Tons. And I feel kind of bummed sometimes when I haven't had the next one. I really feel I really like sometimes we need a shake to our system, and that
Sure.
shake takes us to another level. And that shake can happen through sometimes one sentence from somebody that makes us
Mm.
go, landed. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, your life changes from there. So for me, throughout my whole life, it's been like that. I think a lot of times people wonder if there's like a before and after Sasha Cobra
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to distinguish that because if you look at my childhood, let's say like teenage years time and all of that, I was super rebellious. Like, did I do drugs? Of course I did. Did I get drunk all the time? Of course I did. Like, did I do all of what I guess not everybody did, but my version was life experienced.
Mm.
But through all of that, the essence of who I am, no matter what stage of life I was in, I still see that aspect, those
Mm.
qualities, that observer, that desire to understand love and why people are not loving, understanding
Mm.
relationships, understanding how to live in freedom, understanding what creates fear or joy through my system. So, no matter what the surface was at any age that I was in, those underlying qualities were always there. And that's what's really interesting to observe about humans is that in hindsight, when we look at our life, no matter how much we've changed, who we become, you can see from through your whole life path. You can see all of that growing and blossoming and sometimes being covered up by certain identities and
Mm-hmm.
superficial things. But we're always there. So I was
Mm-hmm.
always super intrigued with relationships and with love. I remember even like when I was a little kid, tiny kid, looking at people and friendships, right? Like how you're 5 and you're just seeing how 5-year-olds make friends and how they betray each other and leave you to be friends with someone else, or like whatever it is. I remember even at that age being like, what is going on here? Like, I need to understand this. This is not right. Like, what is wrong with humans? so 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 that was always there. And then with age, of course, when sexuality came into it, I was always a very sensual, very sexually intrigued individual. So that interest was always present. And then spirituality came in the picture. Like, even if I think about my drug, alcohol days of growing up, I wanted to understand consciousness. So it's like different people drink and do drugs for different reasons. I never did it at parties. I actually would do it and just like close my eyes and play with energy in my body, So underneath the surface of everything, that basis of who somebody is always there. So it was always there. However, I have to say this. At a certain point in my life, I met a man that had been doing this type of work in his own version, of course. For many years, he had been doing it. And so I spent time with him, and the energy work that I do is his. So, of course, it's a little bit different. Things tweak, of course, over 20 years. I always say, like, when people ask you, who taught you how to dance? Well, if you've been dancing for 20 years and somebody taught you how to dance 20 years ago, by now you're dancing your own dance.
Sure.
But you do have to give credit to the teacher, and I absolutely give credit to that individual. So that was a huge turning point, because he showed me how to take all my interests of sexuality, of spirituality, of health, of relationships, of love, and actually package it into something that was of service to people. So that was a huge pivotal moment. But how I even got to meeting him had a pivotal moment. So it's a long story. It's kind of a long story, but life is this magical journey. And so you'll go through moments when just one day something happens and you become someone else. Like, I'll share with you one very quick one. I was going to university. I ended up dropping out of university. I was very close to graduating, but I just said, I've had enough. Like, I cannot do this anymore. And there was a day when one of my coworkers, I was working at a nightclub. And at that time, while working at this poshy private cocktail bar, I was not drinking alcohol anymore. I wasn't doing any drugs. Like, I was raw vegan, organic, like super healthy, super into all of these things, but serving poison to people. Right. And getting paid very well for it. So it was a great job for university years. And one of my coworkers and I, so funny sharing this story on a podcast, but here we are. You said you wanted personal things. We, on some like random Saturday or Sunday morning, I don't remember which day it was, we were walking into Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, like 9 a.m. And this guy just on the corner said, "You girls want some mushrooms?" And we were like, okay. So we ate some mushrooms, went to the park, hung out, had a beautiful time. And I remember clearly I was standing behind this bush. I closed my eyes one time, and I remembered that I was seeing myself be a healer, and that I was helping people. And I remember telling her, I didn't come here to poison people. I came here to heal people. And after we had our experience at Golden Gate Park, we walked to where the streets are. I don't know if you're familiar with that town, but there's Haight Street that has lots of cafes, tea houses. And we sat at this tea house, and the window was open. And I sat there watching all the people walk by, and they looked so sickly and so dead. And I started bawling, crying. And I just said, I'm here to help people. This is what I need to do. I cannot poison people anymore. I called my boss from that tea house and I said, I'm not going into work today. I can't do this anymore. And to my surprise, he actually was like, I'm surprised you didn't do this sooner, because he knew I didn't drink alcohol and all of that. And at that same tea house, when we were sitting there, I had my hair down and I was sitting like this. And just like this, my hair fell in front of my face. And at that time, I was coloring my hair. So I'm sitting there and seeing this hair that was blonde, like blonde hair that wasn't mine. And again, I started bawling, crying. And I remember saying to myself, I'm not myself. I'm all the time trying to be somebody that I'm not. And since that day, I had never colored my hair. It was like, you talk about pivotal moments. They can happen for so many different reasons, but I will never forget that day. And that same day, I dropped out of my university. I called my parents. I said, I'm not going back to school. I called my boss. I said, I'm not going to work. I told myself I'm never going to do anything that isn't my natural self. I want to know who I am in its full totality. And I got on super drive of, I moved out of my apartment that same week because if I wasn't working at the nightclub, I couldn't afford it. I moved everything into a couple bags and into a car, got rid of everything. And I just said, life, take me. Show me where I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be. Because I'm done living a lie. Yeah.
Pivotal moment.
And that was all one random Saturday walking to the park with my coworker. And it's like that, and throughout life, there's been other moments where somebody could say just one thing and I will remember it forever. And it changes my life forever because it lands. And life is full of magical moments like that drive us and push us along to our destiny, the journey of our destiny, whatever this experience is. And there's so many. And most people miss the majority of them. But if you understand that life is magic and you look for that magic, you will find it often. And then you understand you're really in a video game. And interestingly enough, now there's all this information coming out, how we really are living in a simulation. So now I can even use that vocabulary to say, then you really realize you're in a simulation in some virtual reality video game. And the question is, how are you playing it? And are you playing it in your full freedom, your full expression, your full uniqueness, fearlessly? Or are you limited through your own mind, following along what you've been told life is about? Because that's what decides the quality of your experience, your life, and the service to the blossoming of whatever this is for in its full expression.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
Some
it.
story time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Super quick.
Yeah.
Tell me about are you on social media or is someone else posting for you? What's your relationship to it?
I have somebody else posting for me. I'm so grateful for that because certain activities I do not enjoy doing. So I'm really grateful that I don't have to post. But I would be a total liar if I told you I was not consuming on social media, which really should be the other way around. And in answer to that, when you said, because you're offering things online and you want to get people offline, we have tools. Everything is a tool. I literally was speaking to a friend of mine today. She's a fantastic photographer. She's an artist. Artists are not good at marketing, and neither am I, And we were talking about the struggle of that. She was like, oh, but why do we have to do the social media stuff? And what I had told her is I said, look, like 30 years ago, you had to hire an agency or pay for advertisement time on television or a magazine to be seen. And now you literally have access to millions of people. And if you do it right, you have the potential. You can post one video today and potentially millions of people can see it. That's incredible. And I personally find really fascinating humans through social media. And I'm grateful for my algorithm because it offers me all kinds of incredible things that, in a way, I don't have to look for because they just pop up. But in the midst of that is garbage.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really dangerous is short form video in the way that people consume it and the editing of these videos,
Mm-hmm.
because they're literally changing our brain structures. They're changing our capacity to hold information. Memory is being affected. I mean, I feel it for myself. It's one of those things that no matter how intelligent I think I am absolutely not immune to what social media reels do to my brain.
Yeah, me too.
And it's very addictive. And I am a quote victim of that, but it is very, very addictive. And so it has its benefits, and of course it has its problems. So in short, we want to get people offline and living, but how do you get to have a voice in a world where all those people are sitting in front of screens?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to use these tools and these platforms to grab attention. Because if you don't, others do. And if you don't, then other people grab their attention for greed, for toxicity, for imprisonment of the mind in so many different ways. I apologize for the sounds coming off here. And so if you can use people to grab their attention and then bring them into a world where they would be uplifted, then please do so, because somebody has to find you. And if you're not using these tools, you won't have access. And that's kind of the reality of our world at this time.
Yeah.
So use it. You know, I have a fantastic online membership that I cherish so much. And people there are so loving. It's like a little micro world of paradise. We're healing, we're honest, we're vulnerable. And it's not just kumbaya. You know, people talk about their problems, their challenges. It's honest, it's authentic. There's really a lack of places for that. And it is online, and it kind of sucks. And I'm aware of that. I'm aware of the fact that I'm still keeping people on a screen, but at least that screen is uplifting their experience, teaching them how to be better humans, how to be more loving, and giving them tools and practices where they go out into the world, where they can really change the world from what they get online through our platform. And the other beautiful thing, and you don't know this about me, but I do energy work online with these people where they can also experience full body orgasms just through energy work, independent in their own home. And to have that type of access to people all over the world, I'm forever grateful. So all this technology, like everything else, you know, sex can cause a lot of pain to people, or it can heal people. And this technology can create a lot of numbness and hurt and pain and misery and a lack of health for people, but it can be exceptionally uplifting and bring unity and give them access to information that they may not find in their parts of the world. So keep doing what you're doing, Traver.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I've felt the same. I have an online membership, and one of my favorite thing in the world to see is you three guys who didn't know each other 6 months ago just posted a picture that you're hiking or that you're having dinner at someone's
Yeah.
house. You've come together in real time, in real, uh,
Yes.
and you didn't know who each other were. I absolutely, I tell the guys, like, send me your, I'm like your grandparent. Send me your photos. I want to see
Yes.
all of them. So I
You,
appreciate you.
you need to create. So when we started the membership, and it's had a lot of growth since then, but some people would post pictures when they would meet up. So I actually created a space called Offline Connections, and now it's flooded with pictures of people meeting offline. So it kind of promoted that. And not only
Yeah.
that, for me, the most incredible thing, there are now partnerships, couples, lovers from different parts of the world that have united through this membership. They meet
Mm,
online and then they actually go to meet each other
yeah.
and they fall in love and now they're together. And I say that because my work really attracts the black sheep of the world. Like we're
Mm,
all different. Like we're all the, let's say, outcasts. We're all the ones that feel misunderstood by society. And so they all gravitate. And so for them to find each other is heaven,
yeah.
because a lot of them find more resonance with each other than they do with their community at home. You know, their family, friends, sometimes even their partners
Yeah.
don't understand them as well as people in the community. So it's been fantastic for that, and I really hope that things move in a direction where we can do a lot more offline stuff.
Yeah.
Human touch is very important, but it's so
Indeed.
rewarding for me to see these people from across the world fall in love and be like hanging out together. It's incredible.
Let's put a pin in it there, Sasha. Where can people find this community? Where can people find you? Where can people get more of you? And do you have anything coming up that you'd love to direct people to?
Yeah, so I would love to direct them to my membership, which is
Okay.
Energy Tune. They can find it on my website, a link to it from my website, sashacobra.com. That's probably going to be the easiest to remember, because Energy Tune is spelled ENRG tune. So you'll get to it, you'll find it. And then, of course, they can check me out on Instagram. This year is very much a moving year for me. So, as
Mm,
I told you, Sasha is a human and Sasha is a teacher are one and the same. I'm not a teacher, I'm a human that
mm,
observes, learns, and shares. And I prioritize very much myself. Myself in the sense of when I feel time to rest, when I feel time to explore, I'm committed to God.
mm,
I'm committed to existence. I'm committed to my own spiritual development. And this year really called me to not add more to my plate, but to let life move me, guide me. Remember that time when I told you that I left my university, my job, and all of that? This
mm,
year's kind of a year where I say, existence, life, God, take me, show me where to be,
mm.
show me what to do, what is the next level. And so I didn't want to distract myself with more commitments. But I'm feeling a little ripe to maybe add one event. We'll see if it solidifies. And
Okay.
then I'm sure next year I'll bring more to the table offline.
Okay. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining. Thank you for sharing your time and energy and wisdom with all of us. I'll
you're
put all the
most
notes
welcome.
of where to find you in the show notes. Folks listening, thank you so much for tuning in. If you got something out of this episode, please share it with one person in your life. Sasha, you're a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.